Hello, guys. Happy 2021. Uh, Maybe it was an awful year for all of you, but I think 2021 would be a great year since it will start with an extra interview, a side B interview, if you want to call it, and it's probably gonna be the best of the series, I think. We just have to wait and see. So I'm bringing you today a controversial personality, if you would like to say. I mean, he is a guy who who used to play Rome Total War, but then he decided to view Rome Total War on the other side and infiltrate in personal lives of other people, destroy clans, fake people, and generally be someone that a lot of the players that used to play loves to hate, I might say. So I'm giving you HoS Aragon. Hello, Aragon.
Hello.
How are you? Long time no see.
Pretty good actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Did you miss Rome Total War?
Do I miss it? No. It's kind of like a food that you just like learn to eat. It's like if you give it up for a couple of weeks, you never even like think about it
Hmm.
after a certain point. But it was always like I always had fun playing it. And everything related to it, especially when I was younger, obviously.
So I think in like 2 or 3 years ago, you tried like to leave a legacy on Total War Hub. I think you were making a series of posts about the start of your career on Rome Total War, how you start playing, the beefs with several people that you had, the way you used to play
Yeah.
in tournaments. But then all of a sudden, I think the forum got closed or something like that. So, do you think that the job is unfinished at
No, I mean that I don't. I don't have any plans to do. I mean, what I made those posts. To kind of leave like I suppose a recording. Obviously, it's a biased recording because it's my personal view. But that was kind of the point of it. I didn't really see it as a legacy thing. I just kind of wanted to flesh out a couple of ideas, set some things straight, things like that.
like just saying goodbye to the game once and for all?
Maybe. I mean, I don't even remember when I made those. I think. I mean, are you referring to the ones on Total War Hub that I was kind of shitting on people and just like pretending that they were interviews. I mean, those were more of a joke than anything. But I do remember that I did leave kind of like a history of Rome Total War,
I
if
think
you will.
the topic was marked like the title was something with hieroglyphics or weird language.
Oh, okay, okay. I know. Yeah, okay, yeah. I believe I left. I used my real name, just David, obviously, but um, I yeah, with the Hebrew
Ah,
script or
Hebrew.
whatever it's called,
Okay.
and I don't speak every Hebrew. Obviously, I just went on Google Translate. But actually, well, it's not true. I used Gwendane because Gwendane's Jew uh, to translate that. But yeah, it was kind of like I had spoken. I think the reason why I made it was I had spoken with Zeke a couple of days or weeks or whatever prior, and we kind of discussed like it would be like basically all of RTW history had been oral, if you will. It's just people talking about it, but there's no actual record of it, like say a history book about it. So I
Yeah.
guess that was kind of the topic. Yeah, something like that.
All right. So let's take it from the start. When did you start playing Rome Total War?
So I think I got Rome Total War pretty early on. I believe the game came out late 2004, I think, and
Yes.
I probably started playing like 2005 single player. I was must have been like 10, 11 years old at the time, something like that. And I just started. I bought the game. Well, I didn't buy it. My dad bought it on some business trip. But I was interested in it because it was used in some History Channel series. That was before History Channel came some gay alien, documentary bullshit network. And yeah, I played single player for like maybe 2 years,
Hmm.
3 years, something like that. I don't really remember. And then I started playing online, maybe 2009. Yeah, something like that, like middle of 2009, around there.
Were you a competitive player from start?
Um, Competitive. What do you mean? Like, was I good?
No, I mean like the mentality that you were demonstrating.
Oh, okay, sure, sure. No, no. So when I first started playing, I'm talking about like the first couple of weeks or whatever. And this was true when I played single player. It was just to do stupid things. It would be like, oh, I want to like make an army using huge units because that looks cooler, something like that. Or I wanted to win a historical battle, something like that. So it definitely wasn't competitive in the sense that, wow, I want to become better at it. But, obviously once you start playing the game and you start seeing that there's other people that are much better than you want to be better than them. Obviously that kind of engenders a competitive mentality to it.
Okay, so you go online. Can't you tell us what CWB means?
Like, what does it stand for?
Yeah, the abbreviation.
Well, it's clan war belts.
All right. So this rule set, did it have a lot of the community had a lot of CWB players, and how many clans were out there playing this specific rule set? Or maybe the rule set wasn't CWB at the start. Maybe it was like TWPL, I think, which was 12.5k.
Right. So what you had is, CWB is pretty old. It's not actually, when I say old, so like I said, I started playing multiplayer in 2009. CWB, I believe, is from 2006, and it's the name of a tournament. So that's what the tournament was called, and obviously, like, that's what the rule set came from. Uh, CWB was definitely by far the most popular rule set by 2009. It was definitely the most popular in 2008 because I did speak with older players. Um, yeah, it came to dominate pretty quickly, and the reason why I think is because, keep in mind, I've seen some replays from as late as 2005. I think a hill, uh, his nickname is Ahid, who's like some demented Romanian who's he has like mental issues or whatever. But anyway, he showed me some replays of him playing in 2005. And one of the games that I saw, it was CWB. That's what the rules were. But you wouldn't be able to recognize the sort of armies that were deployed, the sort of strategies involved, and so on, because it was very different in the sense that, for starters, people used to. They didn't used to. It was very rare for people to bring the maximum amount of cavalry allowed, for example. So obviously, in a Rome versus Rome in 15K CWB, the best army. I mean, it's still. I can't imagine that it's changed at all. The best armies, 8 heavy cavalry, 6 Praetorian, 2 legionaries, and 8 archers. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little bit of variation here and there, but when CWB was enacted, 2006, 2007, uh, that's not what the armies looked like. The armies were maybe 4 urbans, 4 Praetorians, 8 archers, or something like that. Um, there was definitely much more emphasis on infantry back then. But by 2008, 2009, when you had players like Reeve, for example, they basically just figured out that cavalry's, like, at least in low money, obviously, it's worth much more than any other unit, specifically heavy cavalry. So you kind of want to just max out um, everything. I don't have a. I mean, you could probably ask Zeke would be able to better explain that. I don't know certain factions. I can't imagine that a faction like Parthia or Armenia were played like that, but at least for some factions, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
and all right, so yeah, you to kind of that was a roundabout way. So yes, the community was much larger than what it was years later. There were probably a couple hundred players at the time that played regularly, like almost every day or every day, and number of clans, maybe be 12 to 15 clans, and then add in another 10 what are called noob clans. These are clans that are made in one day and they disband the next day, and then things like that.
okay. And how often were the tournaments about CWB were held? I mean, was it an often occasion, like every 1 2 weeks there was a different tournament going up?
The frequency, I'm comparing the point of reference to maybe 2015, 2016 when I
Yeah,
kind of came
yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah.
play a little bit. So the frequency was probably the same. Like there really wasn't that much of a difference in the frequency. I would just say that tournaments were a little bit rare in the sense that tournaments were held by. It was rare for individuals to hold tournaments. Typically, what happened is a clan held a tournament. So, for example, a tournament that Zeke won that I remember was the Sons of Rome tournament,
Mm-hmm.
SOR. Um, so the clan would hold the tournament, for example. So the frequency, I don't think the frequency was as much, but there was still. I mean, you could always find a tournament almost every month, so it really wasn't that difficult.
So, Rome Total War used to be a very famous game back in 2007, 2008, 2009. I remember, like, I used to watch, like, after years, but the videos were dated back in 2009, for example, and I could see that the lobby, like, there were hundreds of people in the lobby, right?
Yeah,
Maybe 1,000, I
yeah.
don't know. Um, why do you think Rome Total War didn't end up to be an esport like Dota or League of Legends, for example?
I think it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
One, I mean, yes, Rome was popular, but it was never that. If you compare it to those games, it was never close to that level of popularity. Um, a couple hundred players isn't the same as a couple million players. Uh,
Correct.
Two, there's Rome was a series of games. I've never played League of Legends, so I couldn't really tell you. But I mean, League of Legends is just one game, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The thing is, then you had Medieval 2, and then you had Shogun, and so on. And some people leave; they want to play the new game. They never come back. Like that would be my. That's what I would think anyway. I don't know.
And how did you guys end up like in CWB before 2015 when the HOS and IOW war started? Uh, the CWB players used to think that large money, large scale rule sets are kind of dumb or they are kind of lesser or inferior to CWB normal scale battles. Uh, how how did you guys came to this conclusion? I mean, did you try playing large scale battles with more money, and you found out that battles with smaller unit scale and less money are demand more strategy, more micro, etc. Or it was like, for example, I don't know about the internet connection back in 2007, 2008, or the the graphics. Like maybe you were experiencing more lag with large scale battles. Why did you end up considering CWB the ultimate rule set that determines if a player is skilled or not?
That's a good question. It, I mean, it's kind of like asking like, why do Americans eat potatoes? It's we eat potatoes because my parent. Part of it is the fact that when I already entered into Rome Total War, CWB normal scale was already the predominant sort of play, if you will.
Yeah, it was,
So
but people used
right,
to
so
look to the people who were playing 31k, for example, like they're pretty noobs. That this rule set, like the higher the money gets, the noober the player gets as well.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Well, here's the thing. In my opinion, and it's obviously a biased opinion, from 2009 to maybe 2012, 2013, something like that, I would say that's honestly true in some extent. By that I mean, if you look at high money, the way it was played, and the clans that played it, they were never competitive clans. I don't remember a single time when a clan that was called, like, I don't know if they're still around, BH, whatever they're called,
Yeah, they're still
even
around.
even right, they even played a tournament. Uh, they never possessed the sort of competitive attitude that I think a lot of the CWB clans possessed. That would be one thing.
That goes
Now,
for the Greek clan as well, because I think they were formed back in 2010, 2011 max.
sure. I mean, like I said, the only player I don't think I ever even played with him, but I heard that he played in some tournaments was Heracles. So I don't. So I mean, I think the conclusion was just people in 31K. They're not. They just want to kind of play these games for fun or whatever, which is fine. But it was kind of different than what we were doing. But I guess the question, is 31K or high money in general different than low money? And here's the funny thing: I always liked high money. I played a lot of 30K TWPL, which, I mean, it was a normal scale, so it wasn't exactly the same as what you guys play, but there's obvious similarities to it. And I always liked playing that. For me, it just got very repetitive. Uh, you know,
Because it was
that was just my
mostly
opinion.
Rome versus Rome, the rule set you're
Yeah,
describing.
yeah, it definitely favored. And I mostly played one versus one. It wasn't team games that I liked playing at high money. That's kind of the main reason behind it. And then there are differences between 31K large and low money normal scale, and that's, I would call it, the kinetics of the game.
Okay.
Uh, lower money, lower money is much. I would say it's faster paced. Uh, a 31K battle. If you timed out the average 31K battle, it could probably last 10, 15 minutes or something like that. Obviously, it would differ between the game and the factions, but that's kind of the thing. When I say 10 or 15 minutes, I'm talking about the actual melee when the units are clashing. Whereas in 15K, the battle is decided maybe in 1 minute, usually just the cavalry fight. There's
Okay.
obviously skirmish and things like that, but the main encounter that decides the outcome of the battle typically doesn't even last 1 minute. So it's a game that doesn't, low money, I mean, it's a game that doesn't forgive any mistakes whatsoever. In 31K, you can make a few mistakes and still win if you correct them. It's very difficult to do that in low money, and I did like that more, I guess.
But I mean, although okay, you're describing actually 31k and CWB from your perspective, but I think that, for example, HoS thought, okay, maybe they had valid grounds about that they were the best CWB clan. So when they declared the war against the IOW, they thought, okay, those guys play 31k, we're very good in CWB, so we have excellent micro, blah blah, and all the stuff. So it would be easy for them to beat them, even in their own rule set. So that, I think, depicts the idea of CWB players considering themselves as better players overall, no matter the rule set, since they can micro Scythia versus Armenia, 1v1 fight in CWB, they won't have any problem in Macedon versus Carthage in 31k, since it's a low-paced game, right? But that proved them
Sure, I mean,
wrong.
I'm sorry.
But but what they thought, it didn't end well.
Well, here's the thing, and it's obviously arrogance plays into it, but keep in mind we were going to go to war regardless of. I mean, even if just to give you a perspective, me and Zeke had even talked about it beforehand. We said that even if the rules that they ask for are Egypt versus Gaul or something like that, we're going to go to war, so it doesn't really matter. But the reasoning, I mean, here was our reasoning, and I don't think it was crazy. I think it was grounded in reality, but it just happened to be wrong. So it was basically me and Zeke had a lot of high money experience. Obviously, again, high money, normal scale, TWPL rules usually. So we had a lot of experience in that. And when Zeke said that high money players usually were the same as the CWP players, of course he was correct. He wasn't correct about 31K the way you guys played, of course. But in terms of tournaments, typically the best CWP players had been the best 30K normal scale players.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the reasoning was, okay, we really have almost never played 31K large, but our reasoning, and this was what was wrong, 31K large is not going to be any different than 30K normal, which was obviously wrong. I mean, 31K large brings open a lot of factions like Macedon or Carthage, etc., that would normally not be considered viable at 30K normal. So that was the obvious mistake in the reasoning. 31K large
But
is quite different
I mean, you
from
guys,
30K normal.
but you guys have played 31K in the past. You have played the tournament as well in 31K. I mean, that's kind of a naive explanation. I mean, I think you guys already knew the difference between the normal and the large scale. I mean, maybe the money
I'm talking
are
I'm talking
bigger.
about myself, of course. I almost never played
Okay.
31K
Because,
large.
like, for example,
Uh,
say Zeke and some other
sure.
hosts
I
have
don't.
played 31K and even played the tournament. At least I know
Sure.
one.
Okay.
Maybe they've played more tournaments. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying. Yeah. I mean, I think it's entirely possible that Zeke and other players knew that it was very different. They probably. I mean, I'm just telling you what I think. They probably just thought, even if it's different, we will be able to adapt quickly enough because we are better.
Okay.
And of course, I mean that's arrogance. That's not
Mhm.
that is literally what it is. But again, I mean, it wasn't crazy. It's not like the rules were 5K small scale or something that's completely different that has never played. It was kind of just an analogy in our minds that happened to be wrong.
Okay. So, man, who the fuck is Elite Anti-Warman 88?
Yeah, no, I know who you're talking about. Warman or whatever his. Yeah.
Yeah. Have
So
you?
he's a strange.
Did you have
What?
any idea who is he?
What do you mean by who is he?
I mean, like, for example, maybe he was a clan player that used a
Oh
different
yeah, no,
name.
yes,
Ah, okay.
yes, yeah, no. He's never used a different name. He's always used the same name. He
But he never
whatever reason, I
played,
don't.
man. He never played. Did he ever play?
He did play. He was never good. But let me kind of just explain. I've said it a couple times that I've always thought it was funny, but it would be funny if I don't know 100 years from now it was discovered that free copies of Rome Total War were passed in the insane asylums. That would be a very good explanation for a lot of the batshit people in the game. No, Warman is a very old player. He started playing in 2004,
Yeah,
I
because
think.
he seemed to know everyone in the
Yeah,
Rome Total War. Like, he
yeah.
was everywhere
The
talking in
only
forums and
the,
etc. etc.
the only player that probably played it. I mean, he's not active, and I haven't talked to him in a while. But I'm just going like 2017 or whatever, 2015. Um, what's his name? Gwendane. My clan. Do you know who Gwendane is? My clanmate.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Do you know who Gwendane is?
Yeah, yeah, of course. He organized the great games.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, he's probably the only player that knew Warman when he started playing, because Gwendane also started playing in 2004, I think. So anyway, yeah, Warman he was in a clan in 2004, some shitty clan. Eventually, the first time I ever saw him in person, not in person, but like, in the game, he was in Scyth clan,
Yeah.
and he was in there for about a year. Then he disappeared. I don't know where he went for like 2 or 3 years. And he seemed, I mean, he was weird. He was always weird, but he seemed kind of normal back then. But then every year or so, he would come back and just spam the forums with, pornography and shit. The guy was just fucking crazy. Yeah, no, I've seen pictures of him too. He looks exactly what you would think someone that crazy would look like. I guess I would put it that way. He would post pictures of himself in a pimp outfit, for example. He's just a very, very odd character.
Okay. So, how many clans have you disbanded so far? Since we are
Disbanded.
Yeah, I mean, it was your goal at some point, I guess. And that has to add with a question, like, how did you pick your victims? I mean, was it just rivals on the game, weakest players, like new players, or the ones who got baited more easily? I mean, that's an interesting question. Really.
Here's the weird thing. Yeah, it's one question, but in order for it to be answered, I suppose you would have to answer multiple different questions. So I'll just kind of begin.
Example, like, I can think on the top of my head, for example, how did you pick Nermin? How did you pick Earth? How did you pick Dodd? How did you pick Tacitus? Or how did you pick
Okay, sure. Okay, so here's the thing, and I tell people this and they never believe me, but I guess if you know me long enough, like somebody like Saint, for example, if you know me long enough, the crazy thing about me is that I almost never pick a fight, if that makes sense. I'll give you, I'll use the example of you and Diomedes, for example. You and Diomedes were in the war, and I did know Diomedes a little bit before, before that war started. But I never really tried to fight him. I never saw him as a rival or an enemy or anything like that. Most of the people that you described, Nerman, Earth, and I'll go into the example of Earth in particular. It's that guy's fucking insane. I didn't try to start. I was actually, two of the people that you mentioned, Tacitus and Earth, I was friendly with them when I first met them. And then it was through a sort of consortium of events that changed. Okay. And of course, it's my biased opinion. I would say that it wasn't my fault, but let's be real. Part of it was obviously my fault. I'll give you the example of Tacitus. So how did I meet or get to know Tacitus? And I could talk about COH. I'll call them because that's probably just going to be faster for me. So how did I meet them? So when I first started playing the game, joined a couple of Noob Clans, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I started playing with Paulus, who at the time, late 2009, early 2010, was probably one of the best players, if not the best player, in the game. And we founded, with Paulus leading the clan, of course, PK. That was a clan. And we got along very well with COH because COH happened to hate, funnily enough, HoS. Okay. You could say that we were allies, if you will, PK and COH, and we got along very well. In fact, we fought a war against HoS, and the first game that the war was a 2 versus 2 with me and Turk. Turk was, I don't know if you know him, the old leader of
guy.
COH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, Turks
So
don't do well in Rome Total War. I mean, I have 2 or 3 more
I'm sorry.
examples. Generally, people with Turkish origin don't perform well in that game for some reason. Okay, continue.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a completely unbiased opinion. But no, but so anyway, the point being, we got along pretty well. So how did it all go wrong? Well, two problems. Well, for one, for one, Paulus was a Nazi, so that was a problem, and he personally,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So he didn't. He racially did not like Turkish. It also happened that it just so happened that Turkish. I mean, he was of course ethnically Turkish, but he happened to live in Germany, and Paulus is a German Nazi, literally. So, I mean, again, you can kind of see the kind of problems. I mean, there was actually this really funny occurrence. Me and Paulus were talking on Xfire, which was kind of a communication app
Yeah.
like Steam, and we were thinking of names to come up with a clan for PK. We eventually decided on Peacekeepers or whatever it was called. But he wanted he linked he tried to link like a URL link to me, but accidentally he sent it to Turkish, and it was like the name of some SS division or something that he wanted to name the clan after. And Turkish got very. Me and Paul were kind of laughing at it, but it's like Turkish was very horrified. He said something like, "We should be the anti-racists," and Paul was kind of just like laughed or something like that. But anyway, so long story short, so why did I become enemies with COH and Tacitus? So
No. Yeah.
yeah. So there was a rivalry already between Turkish and Paulus that they had set aside to fight HOS. But then this retard from Russia called Nikitin came back. He had been an inactive player in COH, and he hated Paulus. I mean, they both hated each other. Again, part of this is because Paulus was a Nazi and Nikitin was a Russian Jew. But no, I mean it's just the truth. But anyway, Nikitin was like, he was a little shit. He just started creating problems between the clans, and eventually there was a war, and these things just happened very quickly. So me and Tacitus actually did try to kind of keep the attention focused on HOS, but after a couple of weeks that failed, and it's very easy once you start becoming enemies with somebody, it's very easy to keep it going, if you will, because you start insulting each other, you start taking screenshots of games that you won against them, talking shit to them and so forth. And that was kind of just basically the whole thing with me and COH. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, you had specific player. I mean, for example, you didn't trust Stock Piper, even if he was on COH or Lucius Sicila.
Sure. No, so okay.
You
No,
targeted
and that's kind of what I.
specific persons in COH, like for example,
Yeah.
Dodd, who you called. I think
Yeah.
you had a video up about him, and he was saying that his mother was a whore in London, sucking dicks for marine men just to pay the electricity for his son to play Rome Total War, something like that. So that has to do about.
Look, let's be serious. Dodd's mother, if she's sucking dick, she's doing it for free. But no, okay. So like, why specific players? Well, obviously, I'm not gonna like if had a Piper or whatever. I'm not gonna if somebody isn't talking to me openly, if he isn't making a post on a forum or TW lobby or whatever against me, there is no reason for me to attack him. That's always kind of been my perspective.
So, but I can't imagine Tacitus, man, like posting something on a forum about you. The guy never played friendly games. He just went for the tournaments, played only his games, and he tried
Remember,
to contain himself
yeah,
just for what was about
yeah.
the games.
Remember that you only know Tacitus after I knew him from 2009. So, yeah, it's
So I mean, in other words, so you were on defense, like you were a defensive, let's say, player or a defensive person. So you gave back what you received, like you didn't throw shit.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I would say.
So about Dodd, the reason wasn't that he was in HOS and he sucked bleeding dicks, as you said, to join the clan, and then he backstabbed someone. I can't recall the exact details.
Oh, I mean,
and he left
it's
HOS to go to COH again.
Well, of course, you have to realize that when I made those videos, the purpose of those videos is humiliation. It's not, I never cared that Dodd was in HOS and left. I think when he was in HOS, I was inactive at the time. Not totally sure. So I was. There are some players, for example, it's actually a trait of very old players like Paulus and Turkish, that if you were in their clan and you left, you became an enemy. I never cared about that. I mean, that was. I always thought that was very stupid.
But okay, so do you possess any of the following? COH, like possible answer A, COH forum passwords. Possible answer B, keys to Spider Pig's house. Possible answer C, Dio's credit card number.
Here's the funny thing. People are honestly some of the dumbest things on the planet. They will give you so much information just randomly, and they don't even realize it. No, of course, I always had accounts in the COH forum.
Seriously?
That's not. I mean, yeah, for 6-7 years, I could always read. There was never any point where I couldn't read their forum. At one point, I don't obviously have this anymore. At one point, I had Turkish Total War's password.
How the fuck did you get it?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's actually very easy. So me and Turkish, like I said, we were allies once, right? So what happened is he was making an account on a forum, and I asked him, "Hey, can you make me an account for Aragon?" And he said, "Okay." And the fucking retard decided to make an account with the same password that he uses for his other accounts. So
Seriously?
yeah, so I mean, yeah, so it's, and obviously, like, at the time I wasn't going to use it because, again, we were friends, but he forgot that he gave me that password. And this is the exact same thing that happened with Zeke. So Zeke made an account. This was back when I was not in HOS, obviously. I was in PK. Zeke, I don't know if you know, Zeke used to be in the same clan as Paulus, and then he left to make HOS. Anyway,
Yeah.
he made an account password, and it was the same thing. He gave it to Paulus, and it happened to be the exact same account that he used for all of his forums. So me and Paulus logged into Zeke's account, which happened to be an administrator account for the HOS forum, for RCC, which was the equivalent of TWCC, and we destroyed the forum within 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. And how did you get access to RV's YouTube channel?
See, that was the funniest thing. I didn't do anything regarding that. It was Spets, and for whatever, here's the funny thing, and I've always found a lot of people on Rome Total War hated me, but even the ones that always hated me, like Spets, for whatever reason, they loved talking to me. They loved doing shit with me. Spets hated what's his name, Earth, and Earth was stupid enough to give Spets the password for this RV general YouTube account. I believe at the time RV had one YouTube account and then Earth had his own specific account.
Yep.
But Earth is so fucking retarded that the password for both was the same. So of course, once I Spets just tried a bunch of different passwords, and I believe the password for Earth's account was beer cans, like beer, the drink, but obviously in Serbian or whatever subhuman language Earth uses.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, that is literally how stupid some of these people are.
Okay, so do you have keys to Spider Pig's house or not?
Yes, but it's only to fuck his wife, and I don't need keys for that anyway.
Is Tacitus gay?
No, he's not gay. He has a girlfriend. She's pretty ugly, but yeah.
Is Dion, Dionysus gay?
Dion, the guy from COH.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gay. Dion always struck me as somebody that has like Down syndrome or something like that. And to be honest, it's kind of unfair because it's not. I mean, he is pretty fucking stupid, but he just sounds dumber than he is because he doesn't speak or write English very well. So that's why I think he has Down syndrome.
He's a cool guy generally. I don't know, like your beefs with COH and the rest. Okay, another question is like, do you said before that Paulus used to be a Nazi. A lot of people have accused you being a Nazi, and still they think that you are a right-wing American fascist prick that hates everyone and speaks low about everyone, depending the religion, their birth country, blah blah blah. Is that true?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen Paulus in a couple of years. I assume that he's still a Nazi.
No.
He never stopped being.
I'm talking about you.
No, I'm answering the question. Yeah, no. Let's see. Well, there was an obvious reason for why some people thought that, and that was the fact that I was in Paulus's clan. So that was obviously that's where the truth of it may come from. Now, Nazi. I don't know anybody that is seriously saying that except for Earth, who's kind of fucking retarded. And I don't know. I mean, what I'm saying is, somebody could say you are racist, and maybe there's some evidence for that. I just don't see any evidence for me being a Nazi, and I never have, other than the fact that I was in Paulus's clan.
Okay, by saying Nazi, I mean like you have been, like you had a lot of racist comments, like for the religion of individuals or the country. So, yeah. Was that just trolling, or you meant what you said?
It really has to depend on what you're saying. I mean, provide me with a specific example, and I could probably tell you either way.
I mean, for example, you were telling Twer that he lives in a shithole in Belgrade, you have some favorite phrasals, like he's sucking dick for crack in the streets of Belgrade, or he's sucking bleeding.
Okay, yeah, of course. See, the very basic insults, like the ones about Earth, are obviously just to humiliate him. Do I have any problems with South Slavic people? Obviously not. I've never been there, and I don't really care about it. But I certainly don't have any animus towards them. It's just purely a sort of invective to insult them and bait them and anger them and so forth. That's obvious. Yeah.
But
in that
you
example.
were going to the extremes. Like, for example,
Of course.
I remember you posted a picture of a kid that died in Syria, Isa, I think his name, that he was drawn, and you used that picture to troll, for example, Nermin about his religion.
Well, here's the thing. I don't remember a kid dying in Syria. I don't remember that. But I do remember, obviously. I'm sorry?
The kid was a refugee, and like the boat sank, and the kid. And
No, okay, I never posted a picture about that. I do know obviously what you're talking about, Nerm and everything except I said about Nerman's religion. Of course, that is true. That happens to be true. My opinions happen to be true.
okay.
Some of the other invectives, of course, for example, did I ever say Muhammad was a pedophile? Yes, of course. That was to anger Nerman. I mean, that was purely the point. There is an academic persona where we can talk about, you know, Islam's place in the world, blah, 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 all this other bullshit. And then there's just, I wanted to anger somebody. It just so happened that Nerman is an Islamist. You know, I think he was telling me that Al Qaeda was a great organization or whatever. So, of course, I knew that if I said that, I would anger him quite a bit. And it was also I used it for purely, I guess you could call political reasons, because I knew that if I attacked Nerman on those grounds, the other people in that little alliance were actual racists, in the sense that they hated Muslims or whatever, they would soon start to have a problem with it. And you could easily see that. I don't know if he still plays COH Terminator, for example. That's why he started that's why he started insulting Earth and Nerman and whatever. And that was, of course, a good thing for me. So yeah, that was the reason why.
Okay, so what about Earth? What do you think about him? Do you think he's like? Do you think he belongs in a madhouse, or he can like perform in the modern society and exist?
Well, I mean, I think he needs a lobotomy, but yeah, no, he's one of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life. Even when he was an ally or whatever, I still considered him just so fucking stupid. It's just very difficult to take him seriously as a person. Again, part of this is the fact that he just doesn't write or speak English very well, so it's hard to understand him sometimes. But even when he does make himself understandable, he's just so stupid that it's just mind-boggling.
I also think he's a bad liar. I remember, if you
Oh,
remember,
he's a horrible liar.
I remember in the Cup of Nations that I won, you were active in the forums and you were saying we had a lot of beefs with Earth, and he was telling to people that I tried to recruit Vicoxbit, a guy from the RV clan, into Greeks, and he was spreading those lies. And Vicoxbits appears to be like his native language was Spanish, and he was also stupid enough. So I asked you to ask him, because you speak Spanish, if I ever tried to recruit him, and of course he denied that. And I mean, like, if you are 30 years old and you are making those kinds of lies and schemes, and you think that people will take you seriously, I mean, I don't know, man. Seriously, he struck me as the most dumbest person in Rome Total War. The things he says about being him an elite player, etc., etc., and the acts of himself like faking in tournaments and getting caught. I mean, you can fake in a tournament and never get caught, like you did, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is, okay, everybody lies. Every human being, I suppose you could say, lies. The thing about Earth is, you're right, he lied about the stupidest things. And, I mean, I'll just give you an example. Part of the reason why I liked him when he lied was because he's so stupid that he just makes other people look better just by virtue of saying the lies. So, just an example. I don't know if you remember that Earth was kicked from RV for a period. I don't know if he's still in it. Sorry?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
the
he
leader
was
of
kicked.
RB right now. Yeah, okay.
Right, sure. But he was kicked from the clan because, of course, he's a fucking idiot. And he's annoying. They kicked him from the clan. I forget I think it was Kamaga or whatever kicked him. Like, a bunch of players decided to kick him. But okay, so what did Earth say? Earth literally thought that I had corrupted everybody and convinced them to kick him and that I was some sort of fucking puppet master with a massive conspiracy. I have literally never talked more than 2 words to any of the players in RV. And that's what he was saying. And it was just Earth, for a period of time, believed that I was some sort of god that was guiding all of the actions of everybody, including his own actions, of course. So one time when he faked Kamaga in a tournament, he blamed me for it. He said that I caused him to fake in the tournament. And yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my hand around some of the shit that he said.
But you could have done this easily if you wanted.
Done what?
Like, uh, theoretically speaking, like faking and winning a tournament.
I mean, I did do that sometimes. It's just the hardest part about faking became harder and harder because Rome had fewer and fewer players, and the other reason why it became harder to fake was just because, you know, some people, including myself, had successfully faked before in tournaments like the Cup of Nations. I believe it was the 5th one or something. It was whatever one I won with Numidia. But the problem is, it kind of becomes obvious. Like, a player that nobody heard about wins a tournament. Okay, obviously you're faking, right? It's like, who can win a tournament in 3 months, like playing a couple of weeks or whatever out of nowhere? So you have to fake a known player. That's harder.
Okay.
And then the other thing. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, continue.
And the other thing, of course, is the biggest reason why people get caught faking is because they just start telling people, and it's like a rumor that gets spread around. And eventually, somebody that doesn't like you is going to find out, and then they'll be outed for faking, basically.
But you said before that you only said a couple of words in RV in general. But if you wanted, supposedly, theoretically speaking, could you have made them kick Earth if you wanted to from RV?
No, of course not. I mean, that was ridiculous. One of the reasons why I promoted shit like that, because Earth isn't the first person to come up with these crazy conspiracy theories about me, like, oh, Aragon has control over these players or control over that player. I kind of promote that because what that does is now these idiots are so paranoid that I'm everywhere that I don't have to do anything. And that's obviously very useful.
Like, they consider you to be the god of manipulation, something like that. So,
Yeah, exactly.
like, one word of yours, and you can convince people to leave clans, to join clans. You can convince people to hate other people, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I'll give you another example. So I mentioned how COH Terminator started insulting, what's his name, Earth and Nerman. I have never talked at all to Terminator. I believe that Terminator at the time, because he was in COH, hated me. But Earth was so stupid that he started going around telling people that Terminator was my agent, that I, controlled him or whatever. Well, that's useful because soon Terminator and Earth started insulting each other, and eventually COH went against RV, right?
and you
I
were
didn't do
sitting
anything.
on the chair eating popcorn and enjoying, right?
Exactly, because they're so fucking stupid, they didn't even realize that I had nothing to do with it. And anyone who had half a brain would have realized that, but obviously not Earth.
But you said before, you said before, like, that you were being defensive, like you would insult someone only if he insulted you back. But I remember usually. But I remember the first time I've met you, we were on the game ranger room. So I think you were playing it smart, like you wanted to see what fruit this new guy is. Like, I never met him. So when you asked me where I'm from and I told you I'm from Greece, you, like, it was the period when Golden Dawn was like had a very enormous election, result, like they had 10% of the votes, and you were talking shit to me like, oh, you are from Greece, you are a neo-Nazi, do you support Golden Dawn, without knowing me. So you were throwing empty nets and just hoping to
Yeah,
catch a fish. I mean, probably that's not,
that's pretty accurate.
yeah, that defensive. So you tend to pick your victims in a way. Like, let's see, is this guy from Greece a Nazi or a racist? So let's test him out. And when I didn't respond the way you thought, I guess, that I would respond, uh, well, we were friendly to each other, I guess. And speaking about that, like, for example, you said before that you wouldn't pick a fight with me or Dio, even though we were on the war team, even though Dio wasn't on the war team against the HoS. But, I mean, why? It was a fucking war. You had to go against everyone that supported the clan that you wanted to disband, right?
Well, I mean, I think that's accurate. Typically, yeah. I mean, if one clan goes to war against another clan, I do think that no longer is there that neutrality between players. Even a player that isn't part of a war team or doesn't trash talk, I do think that kind of ends the sort of neutrality thing. But when I said that I don't go after them, I mean I would say that's a very general premise. For example, I never had huge problems with some of the people in COH. I mean, I don't doubt that they hated me, and I had contempt for them, obviously. But my main problems were focused with 3 or 4 people in the clan,
Yeah.
Who happened to, of course, be the leaders of the clan. But yeah, so I mean, generally, I would say I don't randomly just see somebody with COH tags and start insulting him. I don't think I've ever really done that. And if I have done that once or twice, I don't think it would be a characterization of something that I've done. Like I said, I would generally say that I don't do that.
Okay. Also, I remember that you used to say, for example, let's say that HoS had different eras. Let's say one era was the era of Zeke and Sent and some other guys on the sidelines, and the new generation of HoS is, for example, Luke and Nidinto, since Sent and Zeke were inactive and stopped playing the game, with some breaks, breaks to play. Do you think that the older HoS players, they were more, how do you say that, more belonging to the mentality of the clan? Like, we have an evolution to the betterment of the clan, or we just have different kinds of players and persons just wearing the same tags but being completely different?
I mean, I guess, are you asking, has HoS evolved? Is that what you're asking? Or?
Yeah, has it evolved or
Okay,
has deteriorated? How do you say that? I mean,
deteriorate, yeah. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. Again, I have no idea how HoS is right now. I can only talk about when I stopped playing, so like 2017 or whatever. But, I mean, I'll put it this way. Every clan is just made up of individuals. And the individuals are obviously going to be quite a bit different from each other. That can be said about any clan. HoS, I was friends with Saint. Was really the one person that I've always been friendly with. And then I also Slayer, who he never played after a while, but I'm sure you saw some of his forum posts and things like that.
He didn't have
I was
the
never
poetry of the post. He was like,
yeah,
he was cutting to the bone, no poetry whatsoever. Okay,
yeah. I was friendly with Zeke, but I was never friends with Zeke, if that makes sense. My personality and his were pretty different. And which is funny because Zeke is very good friends with Saint and very good friends with Slayer, and I'm very good friends with them. But just me and Zeke were never like I never messaged Zeke or talked with him that much. And then you have I guess we would call the newer players like Nadintu and Luke, who I think still plays. I'm not sure, but and I'll just be very blunt. I never liked Nadintu or Luke.
Why? I
So,
remember, to be
uh,
honest, I remember, like, you told me it was the Cup of Nations final and it was Luke versus Tacitus, and Luke had Pontus and Tacitus Greece, and you were training Luke about this matchup, and he told me, like, if he's going to lose, I'm going to fucking kick him out of the clan. Well, you didn't do that, but I could feel your frustration towards him. Can you explain us
oh,
why you disliked Luke and why you disliked Nidintu?
well, okay. Let me just rephrase something. So Nadintu and Luke, again, I don't know about right now, but they were very good players. Just generally speaking, I'm not saying they were top 10 or not top 10 or whatever, but I think everybody would agree that they were pretty good players
Okay, yeah.
from back then. So that's obviously it. I'm talking personality wise. I was just never friends with them, either of them. Just very different people compared to me. I know Saint really hated both of them. Uh,
But why?
he really fucked.
I mean,
It was just it's very small things. It's like me and Saint had a very particular form of humor, for example, that I don't think. It's kind of like saying like, why aren't you friends with this person? You can't really explain it. It just kind of happens.
I
You know what
mean,
I mean?
yeah, but it's a fucking game. I mean, if you dislike someone inside your clan, like you and Sand,
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
you can like throw them out. Why keep them?
Well, I never acted like it wasn't. I should reiterate. I never actively disliked them. I mean, it's not like they were assets to the clan. They were good players. They were assets to the clan. They could win tournaments. That's why they were kept in the clan, of course. And like it's just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean that person isn't a good person. Uh, I guess I'm saying that I kind of viewed them as more neutral people. I mean, for example, I'll just say I got along better with you than I did with Luke, or I never even talked with Nadintu. I mean, I think he has schizophrenia now or whatever. But when I did talk with him, he always seemed like a very weird kid. Like, just there's something off about him. Um, yeah, I don't really have a reason. That's kind of same reason. I think Luke was always pretty good friends with Zeke, so it's like I think it's just a mishmash of personalities. I wouldn't really think too deep into it.
Okay. Um. So what I think, like probably you justified what I think. Like for example, HOS, you had a lot of antagonism inside the clan. Like you imagine that
Oh,
if
sorry. Let me, because I do now remember when I told you that I was gonna kick fucking Luke if he didn't win Pontus versus
Chris.
Reese or whatever. Yeah, the reason why I was so fucking frustrated was literally because I showed Luke. I don't remember if he took this army or not, but I showed Luke an army that was literally impossible to lose against Greece. It's the one with like 6 Cappadocians or whatever, and a bunch of skirmishers and archers. And I played against Luke in the same matchup 3 times, and every single time Luke got like 80 kills, 100 kills, or something like that. But then I'm like, how the fuck did you lose to me using this army? And I just got very frustrated. But that was more of a competitive thing. I was like, you're making the clan look really bad by just losing this matchup.
Okay. Yeah. What I was going to say is that through the ranks of the same clan, like there was a lot of antagonism between clan mates, which I don't think that's is it healthy. I mean, for example, probably Zeke and Sent were arguing even though they weren't admitting who is better, Zeke or Sent, for example, or I don't know. Am I right or no?
The example you gave, Zeke and Saint, I would say that I mean, they were typically pretty good friends. I don't remember. Keep in mind, you could argue and you could still be friends.
Yeah,
Some of the
sure.
people that I roast the hardest are my friends. In fact, some of the things you would say to your friends in a sort of insulting manner, you could never tell to a stranger, if you know what I mean. But of
Yeah.
course, I mean, there were disagreements within like, there were people in the clan. An obvious example would be Mad Gay or Mad J, I forget however it's spelled, and Luke. Like, they hated each other. Like, hated each other. Uh, is that healthy? Well, no, but it honestly doesn't matter if your purpose is to be a competitive clan. It really doesn't.
Yeah, but you have to be a competitive clan, but you have to be in peace between your members. Like, what's the use of a clan if the clanmates don't get along with each other?
Well, like I said, the purpose was to win tournaments, and HOS was always able. I mean, in some ways, it was good because you had a lot of competition between the players, so it pushed them to try to win this tournament or that tournament, and it did make them better. Um, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, everybody would get along. It's just it wasn't possible. I think.
So, did you took a side between Madges and Luke's beef, or
Yeah, I
or
mean, almost always Mad Gay's side because, like I said, Luke was always a bit annoying to me. I'm not like talking shit about him. It's just like I didn't really get along with him, and then he always had these opinions that uh, kind of set me the wrong way, if you will. Like Luke used to claim that he was like so much better than me, and I literally owned him in a tournament, and then he would just I don't know. It's just it did piss me off a little bit.
so you thought like Luke was a disgrace to the clan?
Not a disgrace to the clan. I mean, he was a good player and he won tournaments and things like that. Uh, I just thought he was kind of annoying at times. There's no, I mean, I suppose if you asked him, he would say that he thought I was arrogant or this or that. Okay.
Okay. So also HOS surely found some things, but like game wise, but I feel some were more propaganda than super weapons. For example, Minerva, Z timing. But did you use that more to instill fear on opponents and appear dominant? Like, or they were super weapons, like you advertised them to be?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, in the case of Minerva, I think that was the thing, the program to guess your opponent's army or whatever. Uh, yeah, that was definitely just more of a joke than anything. I mean, it did work. Like Slayer was a computer scientist and he did write the program, and it did work. It would tell you the army, but we literally never used it ever in an actual game because there was really no need.
So it was
But
more, yeah.
oh, well, the reason why we brought it up was because when Slayer told people that he made it, there was this huge scandal. Like, everybody was like, "Oh my god, that's cheating," and I'm like, "No, it really isn't." So it was kind of just to bother them that we had this program. They didn't, even though it didn't really change anything, and we never used it. As far as the other things like Z timing or pike tricks or this or that, yeah, I mean, some of them were useful. Keep in mind, these were gaming innovations. So once they were used, other people started using them, and whatever advantage they had kind of dissipated. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So,
yeah, I don't deny that the clan have found some stuff on the CWB field. But I remember watching a video on YouTube about Minerva, advertising Minerva, which was like more of a propaganda, like you said, because you never really used it. Or Zeke was uploading a battle with some cap fights, and he
oh yeah, I
he
remember that.
turned off
So
the the cat fight and he just let us see that, for example, cataphracts killed maidens or camel cataphracts or something like that. Like, so that makes people wonder how the fuck did he do that? I mean, maidens kill
Right.
cataphracts. So, oh my god, probably he knows a very powerful
Sure.
trick. Yeah, how to do that.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it was like propaganda thing, whatever. The thing that you're talking about, though, in particular, it was like cataphracts against cataphracts, and I think it's actually because here's the thing: there were things that we discovered in Rome Total War that were very interesting. I'll give you an example of one. They were very interesting, but they weren't very useful in an actual game. Like, it was difficult to actually enact it in a game. Pretty much useless, I would say. But
like you can't implement it during a battle, but like for
yeah,
encyclopedia reasons, like yeah, okay.
Sure, it's very difficult to implement. So, what we discovered, and it surprised us quite a bit, was I mean, I'll just ask you, who do you think would win if you charged a wedged cataphract against a standing cataphract?
The standard cataphract, if he has guard mode on.
No, but without any moving.
Yeah, without any moving.
Yeah, that's what we discovered. We discovered that if you put a unit in wedge, a unit of cavalry in wedge, and it doesn't matter if it's guard mode or not, but if you put the unit in wedge and it receives the charge from a cavalry unit, those units will win in the battle. It's just very difficult to actually implement it because obviously they have to charge directly in front of them, and that's pretty much impossible to do in a battle with any degree of certainty. But we thought it was like pretty interesting at the time.
Okay. So, generally speaking, no. Let me look at my notes one moment.
The enemy general flees like a frightened child.
Okay, like let's go a little bit back. Do you think that? Can you name one time that even you think you took it too far? I mean, the trolling and stuff and trash talking. Like, did you had remorse or not? Like every time you thought that the guy was looking for it, he deserved everything.
Have driven off the enemy, and your triumph is complete.
Go too far? Probably not. I mean, I don't. My sort of dictum is, if you can dish it, you should be able to take it. So if you enter into some sort of fight, you're in the fight. You should be able to just handle it. But did I ever go too far? I'm trying to think of like any specific instance. Yeah, I mean, look, I feel bad that I brought up the NATO bombing of Serbia or whatever. But yeah, but it was really funny to just like trigger Earth and Spartacus. Spartacus was, I mean, yeah. So was it far? I don't know if it was too far, but
yeah, that was a little
it is
bit
what it
harsh,
is.
if you ask me. Okay, so are you trying to have an edge in the game by trash talking other clans, or this is just, let's say, a sinister pleasure for you? Like, do you enjoy like fucking people verbally? I mean, like, I remember you were pretty down. How do you say that? Berserk. When you were like, you only needed one spark, and then it was a fire going.
Yeah, I mean, a sort of vitrolic trash talking. I always found it to be pretty fun, in the sense that it's just like, I mean, it's just a game. You make make the best of it, if you will. But yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, the main reason, and I always said this, the main reason why Rome Total War lasted as long as it did, with as many competitive clans as it had, and really good players, for the length of time that it did, was precisely because of the rivalries and the trash talking and things like that.
Okay, like some people recently remembered your trolling in the clan server of Discord. Are you considering to come back to like trash talk a clan or an individual? Hello?
No.
No.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, no. I would say no.
Okay. People like remember you more as a forum flamer, drama instigator, but were you one of the best players of the game during your time? And like, do you care if they don't remember you as a player and they only remember you as someone who was like throwing shit to everyone?
I mean, obviously, like I don't give a shit in terms of whether or not I'm ranked in somebody's top 10 list or whatever you call it. Now, it's the question of whether I was one of the best players. I mean, that's a difficult question to answer
I
in
mean,
the sense that were there points in time when I played RTW that I was the best, or not the best, I don't think I was ever the best, but one of the best players uh, at the time? Yes, I think that's pretty obvious. And the reason why I would say that it's pretty obvious, I mean, I did win a lot of tournaments, especially in 2010, 2011. I won a lot of tournaments. Probably the only other player that was winning more tournaments at the time was Zeke. Uh, so I think objectively, if by the same criterion you say that Zeke is really good or that this player or that player are really good, then yeah, I would say that I was one of the best players at that time. Uh, was I like one of the best players later on? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of difficult to answer. I was always able to beat the best players, and I always performed in tournaments pretty well compared to.
the time of your inactivity, yeah, I remember that. Like, I
Yeah,
remember that you played on the great games, and given that you like 31K was new to you, and you were teamed up with Madge, I think. Yeah, you did very well for someone that hasn't played for like a lot of years and then coming back. And I don't think you even trained or prepared for the tournament or whatever. But so you don't mind if people like think about you when they discuss about Rome Total War, like they describe you as a just like as a troll, let's say, or someone that who was looking to pick a fight and not
no,
as a player.
no. It's in some ways I would rather. The thing is, good players are very common. I mean, there's a lot of good players throughout Rome RTW history. So yeah, no, it doesn't bother me.
Okay. Um. So, you said you didn't know the Greek clan except from Heracles, like in
I
2010.
mean, I definitely saw them. I just mentioned that Heracles was the only player that I saw playing in tournaments at the time.
Okay. So compared to the modern Greeks, let's say, if you compare them, like the way they played, also CWB and 31K, like Heracles, Dio, and me, would you say like the achievement that we had on the great games, like going and playing against the entire HOS clan and beating them in every aspect of the game, 31K, CWB, and Con, do you think that was a slap?
Uh, I honestly don't remember. I mean, I do know that you guys won the great games. I don't remember the exact score or like the factions or any of that. But no, I never saw it as a slap or anything like that. I always did think that the Greeks were better, obviously at 31K, especially in the team games.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as far as yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've played with the only Greek player that I don't think I ever played Heracles. I'm not sure, maybe, but I don't think so. The only Greek player that I ever played was Dio. So that's the only in 15K. I mean, like low money. I know that I played you, for example, but not consistently.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't say so.
Speaking of Dio, for example, I remember I was like, we were talking with Dio, and Dio told me that you seemed more insightful than Zeke in the game. Like, for example, even though you were rusty and you weren't playing for a lot of time, you would pick some weird armies and try to win, and sometimes you were successful. Like, he told me that one game you took Macedon and you took companions without upgrades or something like that, and you managed to win the game, but I don't know the specific matchup that you guys were playing. So, I mean, it was a surprise to us because all of everything that we knew about you was on the forums. We haven't really saw you playing, and when we saw you playing, we understand like you are not playing that regularly. So if you wanted to be like if you were playing the hours that other HOS, for example, or generally other Rome Total War players were investing, I mean, the time they invested on the game,
Mhm.
you had the brains to be like probably one of the best players in the game. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, you could say for yourself, like, you could see your potential, I guess. That's why I asked you if you mind if people would see you more than a troll than a player. Because, like, for example, it's something that you chose, and it's not like you spend like 5 minutes on the forums. You invested also some time in the forums, but you prefer to invest your free time there instead of playing the game. Can you explain that? Because it's a little bit weird, let's say. Like, I mean, what's the point flaming Zeke, flaming Earth, Nermin, Terminator, or whoever else, rather than playing a game?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. Let's see. So you asked a couple. I'm just trying to like wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's I would never say that I was more insightful than Zeke.
That
So
was
I
Dio's
wouldn't agree.
impression,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, no. Yeah. So I wouldn't agree with Diam. But here's the interesting thing, and this is why at the end of the day, when you ask somebody who the best player is, or who's really good or whatever, it's very subjective, and that should be somewhat obvious. For example, I don't know their exact score, like their exact how many times this player has beaten this player, but I do think. I mean, Diam, sorry, is in here, so maybe he could explain it. I'm pretty sure Diam has beaten Zeke more times than he's lost. Is that correct? Or they're very close in their score, or something like that.
I don't really know. Like,
I mean, okay, that was the impression that I got. So that Dion has been able to beat Zeke in tournaments quite a bit.
yeah,
Um,
I think he beat him, but I don't know like if he has a positive score or whatever.
it's kind of just like my thought out there. But it's to kind of highlight a point. For me, the player that was always the most difficult to ever play, and this was true throughout whenever I played Rome Total War, was always Zeke. I don't know why, but that was always the case.
Yeah, like
So,
different people have different nemesis. I mean, like you can own a player, let's say, and maybe he's he's supposed to be one of the best, and your nemesis would be a random guy, even a random guy, like you.
sure. So it's like, so I mean, when I did play the game a lot, say in 2010, 2011, and again, I would say that yeah, I was one of the best. I mean, I'll just give you a sort of example of what I mean. So I don't know if it's the case today, but it was definitely the case in 2016, 2017. This was partly propaganda, but I think it was, to a degree warranted. That people went around saying Tacitus was this amazing player, right? That he's one of the best, better than Zeke, better than this. I mean, I played with Tacitus since 2009. Tacitus never won a single tournament back then. but I did. If you were to ask me, I would say objectively that shows that I was better than him at that time, even though he played for longer than I did, and he always played more hours than I did. So I don't know if getting kind of lost in the train of thought, but I always did consider myself to be one of the best players. Obviously, when I came back from inactivity, it's very difficult to compete against some of the kids like Nadintu that were playing 50 or 60 hours a week. That's impossible for me to do, right? And there's a huge gap between somebody that plays 3 hours a week and somebody that plays 50 hours a week. Because obviously, all things considered equal, the player that plays 50 hours a week is going to have a huge advantage in terms of reflexes, micromanagement, all these other things.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I'll just to add like a thought.
Keep in mind, even when I did come back and I was relatively inactive, I still beat people like Luke in tournaments.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would make me better than him. I would say that it's possible that maybe he just didn't perform in the tournament, but it still shows that I could, at that time anyway, that I could play at a high level. So I don't know.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm talking about the understanding and the adaptability you displayed, for example, in 31K, and how disproportionate is to each of their reputation because of, like, all we heard was Zeke.
Oh, okay. No, sure. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's kind of like asking, you know, the way people are perceived in RTW varies. It's literally the same as historical figures. You could have a figure that was seen in the past as very negative, and then the opinion of him, the public opinion of him, changes as a result of modern events. Just a historical example, like, I don't know, the first emperor of China used to be Qin Shi Huang, or whatever his name was, used to be seen very negatively in China until the Communist Party took over, and then he became sort of this positive figure. Of course, the opposite can also happen. Back in 2010, 2011, I was in most of the top 10 lists of people, like 2010, 2011, 2012, something like that. Most of the top 10 lists. Obviously, the thing is, once I went inactive, all I did was stay on forums. That was my only link to the RTW community. So it does make sense from that perspective that that's what kind of like stayed in people's minds at the present, because these are the people that kind of witnessed it. So I think that would make sense in that way.
So, I mean, also, another segment of my question is like, even though the times that you were inactive on the game, you were active on the forums, why did you decide to spend that time in the forums instead on flatlands?
Because honestly, I found the forums to be more entertaining than the actual game in some ways. You have to realize that, of course, some of the a lot of what the forum was trolling and insults and all this other shit. Okay, but the forum was still a place people had discussions about all sorts of topics. It was kind of just a community forum. There were people that I was friendly with, like Slayer or Saint, and others, of course, Gwendane, people like that. And they weren't playing the game either, so it was kind of a way to remain in touch with them, and that's kind of like what I viewed it as.
Okay. We're watching a lot of stuff nowadays going on over there in the United States with political correctness and cancel culture. I assume you don't like that, right?
No, I don't like that.
So, what if you want to run for president one day of the United States and somebody publishes all your posts in Rome Total War? What are you going to do?
Here's the funny thing. It would probably help me. It wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah, it's... There is... I mean, I do... The question covers, like, a lot of, like, topics, obviously, but, So the reason why I'm against like the whole cancel culture shit is because, well, the most obvious thing is it doesn't work. I mean, you will never be able to convince me that because you excoriate somebody because they said this or that in a tweet or something 3 years ago, that somehow is going to have large scale social changes that mean anything. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's an idealistic kind of view of the world. So politically, of course, I'm very against that. I'm not saying that people should just have the right to say anything they want without any consequence. It's just, I do think there needs to be a sort of proportionality to it and just common sense. So yeah, obviously if it gets released to the public, I would just say it's not me. But then I don't know if that would, with the technology nowadays, I don't know if, how able I would be. But yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason, myself included, but a lot of people online, the reason they act the way they do on the internet is precisely because there has been this closing of the public sphere. There's been a corrosion of democratic debate and democratic standards all throughout the world, but especially in the West. Just a complete destruction of what we would call civil discourse that's been gone pretty much. And then part of that has been pushed to the sort of, the darkness of the internet, if you want to term it that way.
Yeah. Also, you deleted your YouTube channel, which made a lot of people in the community very, very sad. Like, I can't forget the videos about Earth or Mussolini. And by the way, we haven't mentioned Mussolini at all. Like, but never mind him. What I wanted to ask is, like, do you still have the files? Because I know that you can earn a lot of money by selling them. There are a lot of potential buyers.
At the risk of not making an extra $3, no, I don't have any of that files or stuff.
Okay, that's very sad. So, anything else that you want to add? I mean, like, I will ask some random city questions like I asked everybody else. Would you rather be a gold pikeman, royal pikeman in 31k, or a gold archer in CWB?
Like, would I rather have?
No. What would you rather be?
Oh, huh. Let's see. Probably the archer. Oh, you said a gold. Repeat what you said. You said a gold pike in
31k or a gold archer in CWB.
Oh, the gold archer in CWB, definitely.
Okay, a gold Spartan in 31k or a gold Predator Cavalry in CWB.
Probably a Spartan. I'm basing this off of what I think I would survive as.
Yeah.
Typically, yeah, gold Praetorians would be very depleted.
And the gold Spartan maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. If it was in the third line or whatever.
Yeah. This is like a cool game Dio invented. Like, he gave me that idea about the interviews. Like, for example, also, I mean, you picked a gold archer in CWB. Archers are going to die, right? You are just doing the archer war, and they're...
Yes, but if you, the good thing about being an archer, of course, if you win the archer war in CWB, you have a much better chance of winning the game itself. And if you're a gold archer in CWB, you're really powerful. Oh wait, when he told me that, I was imagining like a gold long range archer, like Pharaoh's bowmen or Cretan archers or something like that. Regular archer, You got to win the archer fight. You got to very decisively win the archer fight.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to ask so far. Like, I don't have any further questions. Like, I can't think any new ones. So, if you want to add something, be my guest. Like, if you want to throw some shit, like, this is the perfect place to do that.
Okay, well, I do want to definitely do that, but it's always better than doing it unprompted. So why don't you ask me something deeply controversial about people in Rome Total War or something like that? Like any comments.
Okay.
And then I'll just blurt out things.
Like, I would love, like, because you are funnier about this person, if you can trust Earth some more. Like,
Oh, like with the accent?
yeah.
Oh, you want me to do the accent or what?
You figure it out.
I'm not very good. Okay, so trashing Earth. Fuck. It's not that I hated Earth, it's just Earth is, like I already mentioned before, one of the dumbest individuals in the game. Completely delusional. Everything about him is just delusional.
Okay, let's talk about him as a player first.
The player, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think in his mind, he thinks he has like a 20-inch dick. The reality is his dick is like an inch. That's the equivalent of him as a player. Like he was an okay player, but I'm sorry, I literally played him 7 or 8 times, and he never beat me, I think. And I was not, like, I was pretty fucking rusty when I played him. I always thought he was just trash.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of, like, I'm getting this from some people. For example, like, when he was playing Dio, I mean, Dio told me, like, I don't know what the fuck is he talking about. Like, we have played, like, 80 games, maybe, 1v1, and Dio has beat him in around 78, 79. I don't know if Earth has managed to win in one game.
Earth was so bad, I beat him, I'm not fucking kidding, I beat him Armenia versus Britannia. That's how bad he is.
Okay.
Like, I'm obviously exaggerating. Like, I'm not saying he's like the worst. Like, he's obviously has some skill because he can beat some pretty good players like every once in a while. It's just his perception is just so out of touch with reality that it's just like he actually thinks that he, again, I'm talking about like 2015, 16, like I don't know about now, but he used to think like he was a better player than Zeke, that he was a better player than this or that. I think his whole thing was he said Tacitus was the best player because Tacitus had raped him in some tournament or something, and he liked Tacitus at the time. So he said Tacitus was number 1 and that he was number 2, even though he had never won a single tournament. And yeah.
Did you also beat Normin, Armenia versus Seleucids? I think you had the game up with that matchup.
I'm trying to, honestly, specific games, it's hard. Did it? No, I think I was Seleucia and he was Armenia, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, yeah, obviously, like I won because I uploaded. I just can't remember the exact.
Okay.
Okay, I do remember now. It was like some chain route or something. He got like 80 kills or 100 kills or something. Like 60 of them were peasants.
Oh yeah. And what about Musoman? I mean, like, you used to try, like, the video impersonating his voice was so fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Mussolini was kind of just like, it was like another rivalry. How did it begin? I can't. That is the one guy I'd have to like think a little bit about it, but like I think what happened was what happened? I think the thing with Mussolini was he had kind of a rivalry with a clanmate of mine, a Hill, when I was in TAOW, and they really like insulted each other, blah blah blah. And then like I defended, I think it was through forums, I'm not totally sure, and and that's how kind of our conflict started. But the thing about Mussolini is, I mean, to his credit, he never complained about like the abuse that he got or any bullshit like that. He insulted, but he was able to withstand the insults, however they were. Yeah.
Did you prepare? Did you prepare your lines like when you were impersonating Mussolini or Earth, or they were just popping
Oh
in your
no,
head?
no.
It was
They were lines that they were lines.
spontaneous.
Yeah, they were spontaneously created in my head, if you will. But I mean, for the videos, like I usually did one or two takes because maybe like I would be saying a sentence and I would mispronounce something or fuck the grammar up or something like that. But yeah, it was pretty organic, I would say. I never had any prepared lines or anything like that.
And what about the Netherland authors that you were talking about on your Earth video?
Oh,
I mean, my favorite line, also Bubo's favorite line, man. We were so depressed when you put down those videos. Was like when you were impersonating Earth, being a school teacher in in a class,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and you were
No,
saying
it's
like
because
Soviets didn't have anything; they were just using brute force. So they were
no.
men,
So
women, pigs, cats. They were
so
just
it's no, and that's what I mean. How stupid Earth was. So he actually, I'm sure you could find it if you could find one of his posts. But Earth claims to be some sort of historian. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but let's say that it is. But he started. I got into some historical debate with him, and his entire argument was that Blitzkrieg, or I mean, Blitzkrieg actually never existed. That's not what
it's no
the
tactic, brute
German ever.
force.
Yeah, he said it was literally just like them advancing randomly. It didn't involve any tactics. I'm like, what? At first, I thought he was maybe it was the like the language barrier, like he wasn't explaining himself. But but no, he actually thinks like like the way he explained it was just like they just attacked, and I'm like, are you retarded? Like, do you honestly think that's what they were what they were doing? So yeah, so the video was just like me shitting on him, and then of course he never had any sources to back anything he had to say. So I think one time I literally asked him like, who the fuck like cite somebody like David Glantz is one of the most prominent historians about the Eastern Front, and he's like, yeah, but he said something like his citation was literally the Netherland authors. It wasn't like a specific author or anything like that. It was literally just like the Netherland authors. And I'm like, it just became a meme after that. It was just like, I'm like, you can't possibly be this fucking stupid, but he was. Yeah, people have said some pretty fucking dumb. Like, I can understand saying something dumb while you're speaking to somebody because people usually speak very quickly. But there's a big difference when you write something because you always have the opportunity to think it through before you post it or send it or whatever. No, but in Rome Total War, some of the dumbest people on Earth existed. I remember, what's his name? This dude from COH called Niels. He's from Holland, and he, I think his thing was he said Turkey is not in the Middle East. Like that was his thing. It was just like some debate, and he just like I said like you do realize Turkey's in the Middle East, and he's like no, Turkey. Sorry, Turkey is not in the Middle East, and I'm like oh my god. And there was like,
do you agree that the proportion of dumb people on Rome Total War compared to the normal people is significantly, yeah, I mean, like the proportion of dumb people on Rome Total War is huge compared to normal people. Do you think that's normal?
no, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's just the perception of it. You have to realize that in real life, if you're dumb, usually, not always, of course, you still have people like Donald Trump, but I mean, usually they try to just remain quiet. If you're, it's kind of like if you're really ugly, you don't go to a modeling audition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so I think like the intelligence in the Rome Total War community was about the same as the general population. It just so happened that they were just willing to say whatever they came into their mind. So it's there's no filter, no censor, nothing like that.
Maybe the community wasn't that big, so that the players would be impersonal to each other, like Counter-Strike, for example, which has like thousands of players. So if you have 200 players, active clan players on the community, I mean, you get to know them better, let's say. What do they think, how they are playing?
I mean, just to be clear, that there are people that I thought were actually like actually retarded on Rome Total War, like IQ below 70 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever met him. There was this dude from PK. Shit, I actually I still have him on Steam. He's still active, not in Rome, but on Steam. His name's Roy. Did you ever hear him?
No.
Well, anyway, Roy, he was in PK, and he was also like kind of a Nazi, but he was one of the dumbest people you've ever seen. He was so dumb. I tricked him into giving me his password by I don't know if they still have it in the Steam lobby, but do you remember this thing called a PID, player identification?
I think so.
It was basically you just typed something into the chat lobby, and it allowed you to
see the previous
recognize
names.
Yes.
Yeah.
So every player that had played Rome for like 2 weeks knew about it, but Roy didn't find out about it until I changed my name to Paulus, and then I told him to give me his password for the forum, which I then had, and then I used his account. This was after I left PK, so I was in conflict with him. I used his account to send messages to Paulus. It was just fucking hilarious. It was so funny because I would send things like, as Roy, I would be like, "Hey, Paul," because Paulus was living in London at the time, I think, and Roy is from London. I sent him messages like, "Oh, we should meet up in a hotel room. Do you want to?" I think. What was the other thing I said? I was like, "I think I might be gay," which was just hilarious because Paulus had. You could tell that Paulus was very uncomfortable with it, but he thought I was Roy. Like he had no reason to think it wasn't his account, and he would say like, "Oh, yeah, that's really weird. I don't want to meet up with you," or something like that. But yeah, it was just fucking hilarious.
Also, like, do you remember Linbot? I never heard of that guy before, but like the last year he came back on Rome, and I remember like in one of your videos you were like trash talking either Linbot or Biatch, and you were saying that, and you were being like sincere about it, that he was using heroin, like he was a drug user. Is it true?
If I said it, it was probably about Beach or Biatch or whatever the fuck his name was. Yeah, I'm like 100% certain Biatch was. I don't know about heroin, but drugs, yeah, obviously. I mean, I was generally pretty friendly with them. I think the video you're talking about, I was kind of just pissed at them because they were just writing shit on the fucking forums, and the way Bot explained it later, like they were just trolling, quote unquote. But yeah, it was. As far as Leanbot, yeah, he's a very old player. He used to be very, very like considered very good in the community. Obviously, the style of play changed a lot over the years, but in like 2008, for example, he would be considered not as good as like Zeke or Reeve or Paulus, but close to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, anything you want to add? I'm like pleasure to hear it out.
I think this would be a fun activity. Ask me to make top 5 lists of some things.
Okay.
About,
Like
like for example,
I used
top
to do
5
that.
dumbest people.
Okay, I used to do that, but okay, in the previous interviews. But since you haven't played for a long time, I thought that okay, but never mind. Okay, who do you think are the top 7 CWB players? Yeah, 7 deadly sins. The top 7 players of CWB, like in your opinion, and based
Okay,
on
I'll
your
say the
criteria.
top. Yeah, I'll I'll say this is for all time, and then just to kind of explain it. Obviously, like a player now that is active could easily beat a player in 2008, for example, because there's been a lot of game development, like calf spamming and shit like that has happened. But so top 7 players of all time, my
CWB
opinion, of
players.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, CWB of my opinion. I would say in no particular order,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
randomly. I would say Seek definitely has to be up there. Saint,
Hmm.
I think those two definitely deserve a place up there. I think Paulus. I mean, again, after a certain point, I could beat Paulus in pretty imbalanced matchups because I got much better and because he didn't play as often. But when he did play actively, I always thought he was probably the most elegant player, if that makes sense. His style of play,
Hmm.
and it's a real shame that I don't think there's any replays of him left. But yeah, he was really good. So I think him. That's 3. Um, let's see. Volta. Reef would probably go up there, just because for a long period of time he was considered the best, or very close to the best, like the second or third or whatever player. So that's 4. Hmm. I never thought this player was very good. Uh, it's a Hill from TAOW. Like he was never that good, but the thing is, he remained a pretty good, like not amazing player, but pretty good player for an extremely long amount of time. And if you go back to like 2006 or something like that, like everybody considered him to be the best back then. So I think if longevity is kind of like the thing, he should probably go up there. Let's see who else. It's a bit harder than I thought. Uh, maybe. I mean, I already gave you my opinion that I didn't think he was very good
Yeah.
when I was very active.
Hmm.
But I mean, for being objective, he did win a lot of tournaments later on. So maybe Tacitus would go up there. Uh,
Okay.
no, I mean it's just being honest.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, like I said, part of it is like COH propaganda. The whole like, oh, he's the best player of this. I never thought he was, but I mean, if we're being fair, for a good period of time, he did win a good amount of tournaments. So that's 5. Trying to think of Russians that were really good. Uh, the curious thing about Russians is the Russian clans like BIA and USSR. They always had a lot of good players, but it was very rare for them to have a player that was better than a quote Western player.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't off the top of my head think of one. Okay, you're not gonna know who this guy is, I'm sure, but and I'm throwing him in this list for a very specific reason. It's Stein. He also went by Stein Blood or whatever.
Yeah.
He was an HOS. He was very very good because he basically no lifed for like he was basically like Nadintu times 2, but without schizophrenia. Um, yeah, he played a lot of like he put in a lot of hours in like 2010, and he literally went from being a noob just like started playing the game to being better than Zeke for a period of about 6 months. Like he became very good very quickly, but then he stopped playing as much. I think he just started playing like other games.
Okay.
So his skill level went down considerably. But he was so impressive that he had literally been playing, I think, for only like 8 or 9 months total, and he beat Zeke in a tournament 3-1 or something. Which I mean, it's just very impressive. Zeke was considered the best back then, in like 2010. So the fact that he was able to do that was, and he was better than me, Stein. I mean, he beat me in a couple tournaments. And again, 8 months. Like if you know the timeline of how a player develops, it's like very very quick.
Yeah.
So I would throw him in there. That's like six
Yeah.
people. And then the last one, I don't know. You could probably throw in a couple different names of players that were pretty good or very good.
Okay.
Like I do know Mussolini was like considered very good.
Yeah. I think
But yeah,
he deserves a spot for a specific time. I mean, he wasn't bad.
Yeah. Oh no, these are
The 7 more or the 5 most underrated CWB players.
underrated. See, the problem with underrated, I think overrated is easier to make a list like that, but underrated, it's interesting.
Yeah. It's harder to find underrated players.
Yeah, it's harder to find. I would say, honestly, without any bullshit, I would say Diom is probably in some degrees underrated. And I would say he's underrated for a very specific reason, though.
Like?
Diom, again, I'm just basing it on my games with him. I only played a couple games with him. I don't remember I played that many games. But he had a very methodical approach to battles that involved a lot of what I thought was very good coordination. I'm talking about CWB, of course, not 31K.
Yeah.
A lot of coordination between the infantry and the cavalry, which I believe that a lot of low money players, it's a skill that's kind of lost for them. And the reason why it's lost is very simple. In low money, cavalry is the most important thing, so players kind of just forget about infantry. But Diom, I thought used infantry very well in low money. So I don't know if he's underrated, but he always surprised me in tournaments, I suppose. I do remember there were times when I thought, okay, he's going to lose 3-0 or whatever against this player, but then he performed pretty well. Yeah. Let's see, another underrated player. Well, I mean, if I'm being honest, I would probably be an underrated player in the way that
they consider you a troll.
Like 2015 or 2016. It wasn't the case like in 2011 when I would be ranked highly or whatever. It's great. Like I'll just give you an example. Luke or Nadintu in 2015. Nadintu was, I would say, better than me at pretty much the entire time because he played a lot. But I was able to actually win games from him fairly. Like I was able to learn to beat him fairly quickly, and it wasn't like he was still better than me because he was just faster. But it wasn't a huge difference. Luke, I always beat Luke in like tournament games. I think we only played like 4 or 5 tournament games, and I typically had I must have had a positive core. I don't remember, but and the reason why I'm bringing them up isn't to like shit on them. It was just like everybody else considered them to be like top 10. So if one uses basic logic, obviously, if you're able to beat somebody in the top 10 consistently and have a positive win ratio against them, especially in tournament games, then you're obviously at least close to them.
Okay, so do you think that players from 2015 would be able to beat players from 2011 or from 2008? Does that mean that they are better because some younger players think that way?
It seems like a straightforward question, but it's actually, I thought about this a couple times, and it's very complicated. Because it's one question, but it actually should be multiple questions, so I'll try to go through them kind of quickly. So the game, if you want to call it the meta of the game, like the way the game is played, basically.
Yeah.
I'm speaking, of course, of CWB, so you would be able to speak better of 31K. But as far as 15K, sorry, is concerned, it's obviously changed. Like the way that people played in 2008 isn't the same way they played in 2011, and it's not the same way that they played in 2015. In the same way that chess has kind of evolved, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, somebody from 2015 or 2016 has that advantage over a player from 2011. I mean, that's obvious.
Since
You could even say that. Sorry.
he has the technology, let's say, of 2008 that was discovered from someone else, and he's trying new things to improve strategies, to improve, you know, how the units work. Yeah, okay, continue.
Yeah. So, no, okay, so there's obviously that difference. Now, just from a common sense standpoint, there's no difference between a pool of RTW players from 2010 and 2015. You know, they're all humans, they all have, if you averaged out their intelligence or whatever, it would be kind of the same, their reflexes would be kind of the same. There wouldn't be that much of a difference. The one thing I would say about why players in Rome Total War were better in the past is pretty straightforward. What I would say is, in the past, you had a much bigger pool of players. So if we consider Rome Total War ability, the ability to be good at the game, to be a trait, the same way we consider intelligence or height or whatever, it follows what's called a normal distribution. Some players will be very bad, some players will be very good, and then some players will be, most of them will be average. They'll fall in between that, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, the bigger the sample, the greater the number of people at the absolute number, at the tail ends of the distribution. So, for example, if I pick from 1 million people, it's very possible that I'm going to find somebody that's 7 feet tall. But if I only pick from 1,000 people, it's a much smaller probability that I'll find somebody that's 7 feet tall. And then if I pick from 10 people, it's almost certain that nobody's going to be 7 feet tall. That's my only kind of difference between, quote, old players and new players, is that in the past, because there was a much bigger pool of players, there was, I guess, more opportunity for these sort of talents to show up.
Okay. Also, maybe another reason is like players from 2015, they find ready what the people from 2008 or 2011 came up with, so they are building on it. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I meant by the.
Actually, I mean, like, you can think about it like which is more important, the baby steps that the game had to do in the hands of the older players, or the minor steps and maybe more drastic steps that were made from players in 2015, 16, 17, and so on. I mean, which accomplishment is greater?
Sure. So the way I would analogize it, would be the following. If you ask me, what's the best army in history, or what's one of the best armies in history, maybe you don't agree. I'm not saying you should agree, but I'm just saying a lot of people would say, for example, the Roman army, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, the Roman army or whatever. I mean, you can pick any example. It doesn't really matter. But, if you gave me 15 guys with AK-47s, I could defeat the Roman army in 12 minutes, right? Yeah. Any idiot. Like, the army of, I don't know, Albania could defeat the entire Roman army in, like, an hour. It's not hard. But nobody would say that, oh, the Albanians are, they have the best military on the planet or anything of the sort, right? There are differences between relative strengths and absolute strengths.
and that would be the sort of point of comparison that I would make when doing these. Is this player better than that player? It's kind of the same analysis as, analyzing the Roman army vis-a-vis a modern army or something like that.
Yeah.
As far as contributions to the game, to the way it's developed, I guess what I would liken it as, Rome Total War innovation, if you want to call it that. Like, innovation can be anything, like different armies, the way to use different armies, this or that, etc. Rome Total War innovation would kind of follow exponential decay. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like, in 2004, people learned that, cavalry is...
Can go.
I mean, it's
wedge
obvious.
formation, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fast. It's much faster than infantry.
Yes.
And then 2005, they find out, it's better to have 6 heavy cavalry than 10 light cavalry, for example, whatever. So you have more and more, as more and more innovation comes about, then you have less potential for innovation to, happen afterwards. And in terms of Rome Total War, I would say that the way this is kind of proven by the fact that I mentioned that in 2008 is kind of when you start having modern Rome Total War. I'm talking about 15K CWB, of course. In the sense that that's when people started cav spamming and playing with lots of archers, and skirmishing became the most important thing. Of course, by 2010, they were better at it. You had better armies. You had, the tactics were a little bit different. But then if you look at the difference between, say, 2011 and 2015, it's very few differences. I mean, yes, of course, there are some differences. I'm not saying that there are not. But compared to the differences between, say, 2007 and 2008,
Yeah.
or 11, yeah, there's a much greater gap.
But someone would argue that, for example, the difference between 2004 and from 2004 to 2011 were the obvious, like even a dumb person. Okay, it's an innovation by name, but okay, I mean, it's more insignificant to find out that you need 6 heavy cavalry instead of 10 light cavalry, compared to the new technique, the Z timing, for example. Maybe it was found on 2012, 13, 14. So maybe you have more innovations in number from 2004 to 2011, but someone would argue that from 2011 to 2015 you have more, how do you say that, innovations that have more meaningful innovations, more innovations that you need to work your brain more to find them, to explore them, or to exploit them, compared to the others.
I mean, that's certainly possible. I mean, I do agree, and that's kind of why I said that there was this sort of exponential decay of innovation as the sort of obvious. But here's what I would say, of course, and you could analogize it, to modern technology. Of course, if you ask somebody, is the wheel hard to invent? They would say, no, of course not. A baby could invent the wheel. But humans have only had the wheel for 5,000 years out of the 200,000 they've lived. It's not. I mean, it's obvious only in hindsight and in retrospect. I don't think. I mean, of course, putting the cavalry in wedge. Okay, obviously, but cav spamming is not as obvious as you think. I mean, of course, it's obvious to us now, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was obvious to people back then. And then one of the other things is, and this is why I always like playing Total War. Sometimes an innovation can lead to another innovation or a countervailing innovation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
True. Yeah.
For example, historically, if you will, Scythia was considered to be, I mean, it's kind of hard to believe because it's now kind of the opposite. At least, again, 2016 when I left. Scythia was considered to be much better than Armenia. And the reason why was simple, because in an Armenia versus Scythia matchup, the traditional army in like 2010, for example, was to bring 5 cataphracts, gold, or gold silver, or something like that, 1 Arab cavalry, 2 horse archers, and then 6 archers, and then some infantry. And that army is, of course, at a huge disadvantage to Scythia, because the cavalry will be about the same as the enemy cavalry, but Scythia has a huge advantage in missile units, and the cataphracts will never be able to catch up to the maidens, and they get tired very quickly. And also because cataphracts are very expensive, I think it's pretty hard to get gold cataphracts if you have a significant amount of infantry. So what happened was, and I can literally take credit for this because this was the one innovation that I did have, was that I started using heavy Arab cavalry, not heavy cavalry, but like I started heavily emphasizing Arab cavalry in the Parthia, Scythia, Armenia, Scythia matchup. The traditional army that I made up, and there are better armies now, I think, but the traditional army that I made up was it's pretty famous, at least it was, everybody kept using it, was the four what do you call it, Arab cavalry, 2 cataphracts, 6 Armenian pikes. And why? Because Armenian pikes are very shitty, but they have very good armor. So if you can kill some of the maidens, they can resist pretty well against the archers. And then the reason why I kept the 2 cataphracts, and you probably don't need 2 cataphracts, you might be able to do it with 1 or none, is that sometimes what people did to counter that army was to bring a Scythia rush army, and they would bring axemen or whatever, but with the cataphracts you can just kill them very easily. And, that's innovation. That changed the way the relationship between Armenia and Scythia forever. I mean, it was never really the same after that. If you look at any replay before 2010, all the games between Scythia and Armenia ended the same way. Scythia would almost always win, because the only thing the Scythia player had to do was win the archer fight, which was very easy, and then start shooting at the infantry, weaken them a little bit, and then just charge in, and 80% chance of winning. But once you introduced that Arab cavalry army, it became more 50-50. Either side could win.
Okay, yeah, I understand your point. So, I think that you think that, like, the contribution to the game, because I mean the context of the question changed, or it got transformed a little bit, is that you think that the players who played back in 2005, 2008, or 2011 have contributed more to the game compared to the players that started to be good or started to play back in 2015, right?
Well, in terms of absolute contribution, yes, I think that's pretty objectively clear. The game has changed. Like, CWV has changed very little after 2011, I would say. Like, if you watch a replay from 2012, for example, and 2015, and I don't tell you the year or the players, it's very difficult to tell what year it was from. But if you show me a replay from 2004 or 2005 or 2006, I can easily tell you that's 2006 or whatever, because it's very different. Now, I'm not saying that older players were more innovative. That's very subjective. I mean, obviously, it's kind of like saying, is America more innovative than, I don't know, Athens? Well, in absolute terms, obviously, because the U.S. has technology that Athenians never did. But obviously, that's not the sort of dichotomy that is being brought into the equation. Rather, what you want to look at the relative position of Athens and the U.S. is a very different one, different time. They both have their own contributions, and the contributions are different in their own way.
So, you need to tell me 3 more underrated CWB players. So far, you've told me Diom and yourself.
Oh, okay. Let's see. 3 more. Let's try to think of them. Underrated. Well, it is a bit harder. See, maybe. And it's weird because I don't know if it's so much underrated or not, but someone like Turkish Total War maybe, because the thing is, Turkish Total War after 2009 was honestly average to bad. Like beating him was very easy. Like he wasn't a very good player, but in 2008 he was considered one of the best players out there. Oh. And from what I heard, he was a very innovative player. So I mean, I don't know if that's underrated, but maybe.
Okay.
So that one. You have players then, a lot of Russian players that I think they weren't the best player. Like they were not number 1, but they were very good and they could win tournaments pretty consistently. You had players like Beowulf, for example. Plutinsky, I think, was another one. They were they were pretty good. I'm just mentioning they're underrated probably by what remains of the community. Like they were still considered good back then. So, and then, maybe. I mean, I always thought he was a weird guy, but after watching him play, I did think he was pretty good. Was Ziz or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's underrated, but
I think he's underrated. To be honest.
Okay. Yeah.
The top 5 CWB games matchups actually.
Matchups. My favorite matchup is probably Numidia versus Thrace. I prefer playing Numidia, but I also like playing as Thrace. Either one is fine with me. That's always been a matchup that I've liked. I also enjoy. I like Britannia versus Greece, or Britannia versus Carthage. You can put both of them, but only if it's a skirmish. If Britannia rushes, I think that takes a lot of the fun out of the game. But the traditional Britannia skirmish with Greece or Carthage, I always thought that was very fun. It's very strategic. You have to really think things through. And I liked playing either one of them, either Britannia or the Pike factions. So that's like 3. Let me think. I hated Rome versus Rome. I thought it was it's so boring. It's stupid. It's also very. It leaves a lot to chance. An average player can beat a very good player at Rome versus Rome. Yeah, because it's just the morale. It's just I don't like it. But another one that I would like, I liked. I mean, Armenia was. I thought it was okay. Carthage versus Macedon. I never liked it that much though, but I did play it. Another one that I did like though a lot was Pontus and Britannia. I preferred to play as Pontus because it was kind of a challenge. Because Britannia obviously has an advantage, but I thought that was a fun matchup. And then probably I think the other one would be Seleucia versus Pontus.
Yeah.
Either side I think was pretty fun.
The top 5 or 7 31K players.
Well, I mean, obviously the best 31K players are not the Greeks, but yeah, no. Can I ask you, so what would happen if somebody created a clan called Turkey and started playing Rome Total War?
We wouldn't mind. We would like go
Maybe
on war
fine.
against them. I don't know, man.
Yeah, what if they just, let's see, instead of Cleo and Diomedes, Alp Arslan and Mehmet and what's some of the other names? Obviously, well, actually, it was a big scandal, wasn't it? Some Greek YouTubers, I think it was back in 2005, they started calling Ataturk a homosexual. And yeah, they banned, I think, YouTube from Turkey for a while because it was very scandalous. But yeah. No, but okay, top 31K players. Most of the games that I've played, as far as I can remember, have been team games in 31K. But I like, again, in no particular order.
Yeah.
Obviously, you and Diam would be in that list, and part of that is just because obviously I played a lot of games with you, and I always thought you were very good at it, both of you. So you guys would probably belong. I mean, again, unless something has radically changed in the game since then, I think you guys would be on that list. Honestly, I mean, I don't remember playing that many games with other people, but obviously some of the players from Titans, I played a couple of games with them. I thought, I think it was Mohammed. I'm not totally sure. He was obviously pretty good, so he'd probably be in that list. And I think Beast was another one, but I don't remember playing that many games with him. So maybe him as well. That's 4. Seek never really liked playing 31K that much, but I thought he was able to understand it pretty well after a while. And then I do remember playing, I think it was a few team games with Heracles on 31K.
Mm-hmm.
I don't particularly remember his performance in them, but since you guys consider him to be as good as you or better, obviously he would go in that so he would go in that category. 31K players. I don't remember playing with any of the BH players, so I couldn't really tell you how.
Tell you. Oh, well,
Yes, I could.
Do you remember B8 since you played the game like in 2008-9? Yeah, you know it's good. I mean, yeah. Let's play on a hilly map. Let's play on a trees map. I mean, probably they're doing bridge battles right now. So.
Yeah, the only guy that comes to memory, honestly. Yeah, I don't even know if he plays anymore. It was this dude called Fokker or something.
Yeah, I haven't met him.
I mean, does he?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know. Like off the top of my head, I can't really remember any of the names. So I mean, that would be my list for 31K. So it would mostly consist of you guys and the other players from Titans, and I mean, obviously, eventually, some of the other players, like Nadintu or whatever, became, I thought, pretty good at 31K. I don't know if I would ever call them the best or anything like that, or in the top, whatever, but, you know, they started to learn pretty well. So that would be kind of like my list, I suppose.
Okay, the 5 more dumbest players, I mean stupid, retarded.
Stupid, okay. That's easy. That's easy. So, definitely the king of the retards, the Julius Caesar, the Napoleon of the retards has to be Earth. Okay. That guy is the dumbest motherfucker I ever met. Second, I mean, not necessarily in this order, but look, I've always wondered, is there something in the water in the Balkans?
I don't think so, man. I mean,
the second dumbest player was probably Spartacus.
Where was he from?
Montenegro.
Okay.
Yeah, he was ethnically Serbian, and then Nerman was pretty. So I don't think
it's part of Yugoslavia, man. All those countries. So maybe it's.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Let's see. So that's 2 people. That's 2 people that were dumb, just dumb as shit. Then you had. It wasn't that he was the dumbest. You had Niels from COH. He it was like he was a slimy liar and he was stupid.
Oh, that's
Which-
a bad combo, man.
Yeah, so it was like, for example, he would just do such. Okay, like I mentioned that, for example, he said that Turkey was in the Middle East, right? So everybody was laughing at him for years for that. And then I guess he just got tired of everybody shitting on him. So then he just started saying, like, he never said that. He said that, oh, really what I was saying was that Turkey was not an Arab country.
Whatever.
So, yeah, so he's just a fucking liar. But, yeah, so he's in that list, probably. Let's see, another, Nikitin. Oh my god, I hated that dude. That guy, I hated that dude. And he was stupid as shit. He was a Russian Jew, I mentioned, but, I mean, it had nothing to do with that for me. All of us disliked him because he was a Jew, but... yeah, Nikitin was... Do you know that one time, and it's so sad that it's kind of been lost to history, he agreed to debate me, through like an actual debate. Like, it wasn't using Discord, it was, I forget what
Skype.
app it was, but it was Skype or something. And there were like 5 people watching it, and then one person posted it on YouTube or something, and it was the funniest. Like, I shat on him so hard that he was never the same again. Like, I don't know why he was dumb enough to actually think that he was going to beat me in a debate. And the debate was like, it was like different topics. One of the topics was, there were very specific questions. And then we would choose one side or the other side of the question. And that's what and one of the debate questions was about Roman history. It was, what was the topic specifically? It was like, was the fall of the Roman Empire caused by the poor performance of the Roman army or something? Like, it was something like that. Basically saying, was the late Roman army worse than the Republican army or the army of the Princeps? And I was arguing against that. I was saying the army was still effective. And I think the funniest moment of that debate, I was like, can you mention the name of a single battle the Romans lost in the 4th century? And it should have been very easy for him to actually name like 2 or 3, but he didn't know any, so all he kept saying was like, the Huns raped the Romans many times. And then everybody just started laughing at him. And of course, the person that was moderating the debate also wanted us to like insult each other. So in the last 30 seconds of the debate, what he did was, it was Mojo Man, the guy who's he said, okay, now you guys have 30 seconds to mention why you are a superior person to the other. And that was just really funny. I just totally shit on him. I called his mother a whore. I said, what did I say? I said he was like a failed Soviet experiment. I said some other things, and then his response was like, can I please make a rebuttal? Even though I'd just been insulting him for like 30 seconds straight. So, I don't know. His voice was also pretty fucking funny. It was like this weird accent, but it wasn't a Russian accent, if that makes sense. But, yeah. So he'd be like one of the dumbest people out there.
So we have
For sure.
Earth, Nils, Nikitin.
Yeah. Oh, of course, Roy. That's the guy that I took over his account and I sent like all those messages.
So,
'Cause
did
he
you
was
get
dumb as
any
shit.
ass from saying that stuff with Roy's account, or no?
Did I get any what?
Any ass?
Did I get any ass from using Roy's account?
Yeah, I mean, like,
using
his account to tell people, I think I'm gay.
No, it would have been really funny, but it was like, it was just because Roy has a learning disability. Like, actually, like he has a speech impediment or something, so he doesn't write very well. So it was just like, I would say things like, I think
I think I'm gay. That's fine.
I think I'm gay. I would send messages to like different people saying like, I've I've just taken an IQ test and it says that I'm retarded. Like, what should I do? And, like, no, but okay. The single funniest thing I ever did on Rome Total War. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this. It was when I took over TAOW Ahi's account, Hill. You guys know him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took over his account. It wasn't for like a day either. I took over his X-Fire, had his CD key as well, so nobody could tell. So yeah.
Did you
so
steal
I basically,
it, or he gave it to you willingly?
oh, because I was in his clan. I was in TAOW.
Okay.
But then we had so he gave all of that to me willingly, and then he went inactive. Like, we had a problem. We basically had a dispute, but I'm not gonna go into to the dispute. But me and Saint left TAOW, and I told Saint, hey, Ahi's so fucking stupid that he decided to go inactive. Like, he said he was going on vacation or something. I don't remember. So I started pretending that I was him, and it was funny because Ahi had this like hilarious way that he used to write. I'm not sure if you like. I'll try to write like a message pretending that I'm him.
So,
like, he would write using these retarded ellipses instead of actual punctuation.
Yeah, Rufl, hombre.
And yeah, he would say shit like that. So I pretended that I was him, and I convinced COH and several other clans to go to war against HoS. But of course, I was actually controlling all of them because Ahi was the leader of the war party or whatever. So, and of course, I knew everything that they were doing.
So
I would have the. Sorry, go ahead.
One question leads to another. I mean, the top 5 accounts you have broken.
Oh man, these are great accounts. So Ahi would probably be the number 1 or something like that. But I also had Reeve's account, from HoS, but he left HoS. He used to be in GoTW, and I think he went back to it. I can't remember.
Did you have this specific folder in your desktop, like fake accounts, and you?
No, I had the CD keys. I wrote all the CD keys in my Rome Total War manual. I don't have that anymore, obviously. And the passwords, once I had the passwords, I would just change the passwords, of course. Of course, I had Zeke's account as well.
Without him knowing.
Yeah, I mean that's how me and Paulus destroyed several forums. That Zeke was the admin. This was back in 2010. So Reek. Sorry, did I say Reek? Zeke, Reeve, and Hill. I had all 3 other accounts. With Reeve, the funny thing that we did, and this was actually the one thing I did with Tacitus. This was back when me and Tacitus were friendly. Tacitus pretended to be Reeve, and he played in a 2 versus 2 tournament with Zeke as his partner. So it was Zeke and, Tacitus, but pretending to be Reeve, against me and Paulus. And they lost, I think it was...
Sorry? Can you hear me? I can hear you, man. Hello?
Yeah, I think I got disconnected for a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Reeve, Zeke, fun accounts, I guess. Let's see what else. I mean, technically, I had Earth's account in the sense that I was able to like log into his stupid forum and like read everything that he was writing. Yeah, let's see what else. Oh yeah, I mean, I had Turkish Total War's account for a little bit as well.
Man, what the fuck? I mean, seriously. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Earth was right about one thing, that like you were taking over the community, and I think it was one of the reasons for retiring from Rome Total War. Maybe it was his 10th time that he retired, and after a while he came back. Also, I want to add something. Like, you didn't put SR on the top 5 list of retarded persons, and you didn't put Madge on the 5 more underrated players. I mean, I think SR deserves to be on the list of the most retarded players. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. What should I do? No, I can't. Can you hear me though?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, I was disconnected. I think it's going in and out for whatever reason. The internet connection, I mean.
So I was saying that probably you have to consider putting SR on the top 5 retarded list, and put Madge on the top 5 underrated players on Rome Total War.
Oh yeah, no, I probably forgot about Magda, to be honest. No, yeah, he was definitely a very good player. Again, I don't know if underrated, because I do remember that people kept saying that Magda was very good. So
yeah, he was. So
who did you say was more, though?
SR, one of the most retarded players.
Oh my fucking god, that guy! How has that guy not died yet?
Yeah, man. How the fuck did you forget about him? Like, he's like, it came me like a lightning bolt on my head. I mean, fucking SR, man. And I think the guy played the game from 2004 up to today, no stop.
You want to hear a funny thing?
Yeah, of course.
That guy was always weird, but let me explain what I mean. He was sort of like an enigmatic character. Me and Zeke actually talked about it one time. Enigmatic in the sense, not that, I mean, I was never friends with him or anything like that. I did play some games with him, but after like 2010, I never, what do you call it? Really interacted with him. Me and Zeke came to the conclusion, this was just like a hypothesis, that he was probably some like game spy. He used to work for GameSpy or something like that.
Why?
No. I mean, why? Well, for starters, because he'd been around since forever.
Okay.
He like 2004. Okay, and then, sir, nobody ever had his IP address, ever.
Okay.
No, I know that doesn't seem like anything, but keep in mind, like, back in 2010, like, there was no such thing as the only way to use a proxy server was to literally physically have one, or to reroute your network through that. Like, now it's very easy, but nobody ever got his IP address. I remember that I would send him links, for example, to our forum, and then he would have an IP address in like Ohio or something like that, and then I would do it again, and he would have an IP address in, I don't fucking know, Germany or something like that. So he was always just very weird about that, very cagey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
He's a retard, yeah.
All right. I think we covered a lot of things. Threw a lot of shit to some players, and it was like a pleasure to me doing this interview with you. Um,
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah, it was fun. Probably, I think it was one of the best I have done so far. Um, okay, man. Thank you very much for your time and your eagerness to do this interview. It will get posted. So, at least, I mean, you were inactive for a long time, and it was a miracle that, I stepped to you. And, well, to be honest, when I said that at the start of the interview, that I wanted to have an interview from you, since you did things that nobody else did it so successfully or so thoroughly like you did, and it you weren't the, how do you say that, the definition of the troll, because I wanted to light the aspects of you as a player as well, because most of the modern players don't know that you used to play the game and you used to be good at it. So yeah, just to give a more overall impression, and maybe give more, like, have more information about years that most of the new players, like players who started to play in 2015, they don't know about it. I didn't know about them either, so yeah, it was pretty enlightening.
Yeah,
Well,
I remember it's all it's my opinion, of course. It's a biased opinion, but I do think I give a general overview of what I do think is kind of the what actually happened in Rome Total War. Uh, but yeah, but I had fun. It was nostalgic.
do you think about Rome Total War? I mean, do you have do you feel any longing about the game? Like, since you're younger than me, like, this is the game that you grew up with. Hello, hello. I lost you again. So, I guess this would be all. We had Aragon. His internet dropped since he was talking a lot of shit about everyone. Okay, so hope you guys enjoyed this interview. See you soon. Bye.